All right, so I got some very good news today about Space Marine 2. For those of you that are wanting a bigger DLC for this game, things are looking very good in terms of a bigger expansion, story DLC, that sort of thing, because we got a new interview with the dev team here. It says success of Warhammer 40K, Space Marine 2 changes everything, dev says, and yes, there are ideas for Space Marine 3, the Emperor expects. We're not going to lean too heavy into Space Marine 3 because I know all of us want them to support Space Marine 2 long term. Also, guess who played Space Marine 2, guys? Henry Cavill, and he has some very good words about Space Marine 2 as well. We'll dive into that. And will we ever see 4-player co-op for this game? Well, we got some comments from the dev team on that one as well. But I say we dive into this IGN interview with COO of Saber Interactive, Tim Willits. So let's dive into this right now. It goes on to say this: in practical terms, the success of Space Marine 2 means Saber staff can now dream bigger, Willits said. Saber will make good on its original post-launch plan, which involves new missions, modes, maps, enemies, and weapons, but it will also make adjustments fueled by Space Marine 2's now confirmed success once the dust settles. Please do tell more. So it goes on to say the following right here: our game director Dmitry Gagorenko, he has proposed some story ideas that could either be DLC or a sequel. We're literally just catching our breath. This is just 2 weeks out. We just need to get the dust to settle, but I can confidently say that we will not disappoint our Warhammer fans in the future. It's too big of a success. I know that's an obvious thing to say, but hopefully we'll be working on Space Marine content for a long time. Now, for Space Marine 3, Will said Saber would need to work with publisher Focus as well as Game Workshop once again. We just have to figure it out. I would love to do it. Yes. There's so many different factions. There are other chapters too that are interesting. Now, Space Marine 2, it seems like that based on its current success, that they would want to kind of pivot here with the ideas that they've had for long-term support and perhaps bolster that after the year 1 battle plan. I personally think they should lean heavily into Space Marine 2 support. They have a wonderful engine, and like I've said before, I really do think they could just keep updating the visuals of this game. What is here is just stunning already, so there's massive potential to just keep going and build upon this excellent foundation they already have for this one. And this bit is pretty important. It gives us an idea of what they're thinking about when it comes to supporting Space Marine 2 going forward. It says, in the shorter term, Saber's working on adding new classes, of course, which will be released for free, and hopefully will add some variety to Space Marine 2's gameplay. Now, Willits wouldn't be drawn on which classes are coming, though fans are hopeful for a chaplain or an apothecary. The post-launch plan, though, is informed by the continued success of World War Z, which has retained a loyal player base through the release of new and free classes in the years since launch. Now, furthermore, it says this: one of the reasons why we got 25 million people in World War Z is because every time we release a new DLC pack or a free class and we had to sell, people buy it. We literally see a spike. We put out a video promoting a new character pack, we see a spike in sales. So it just drives attention and drives awareness. There's always one guy that says, guys, come on, there's new stuff coming. And then, okay, so 3 other people are like, it's only $5, let's buy it. And so you get this kind of group FOMO thing going on that really helps. And we had so much success with that model. That's what we'll do. So that's such a great model. It sounds like the game's price will over time reduce as we go. And then as they continue adding in content, they'll probably also be running sales alongside these new free releases, building the community steadily. And hopefully we see the player numbers overall get bigger and bigger. So yeah, that is such an excellent approach to this for sure. Now, we have some comments from you guys, the community here, on what you would like to see from the future of the game. And a lot of you guys don't want them to mention Space Marine 3 at all. Check it out. Would love separate episode missions for different chapters. That would be amazing. Each chapter has unique lore. Would love to see this sort of thing. That'd be awesome. Imagine the unique abilities and playstyles each chapter could bring to gameplay. Furthermore, we have, I would rather operations that focused on new classes based on chapters supporting a main campaign DLC with Titus. Could even do a Back to the Death Watch type episode that covers his time there, which could also highlight other chapters. Dude, I love that idea. Anything they add should be able to slot into OPs with little work. Otherwise, the return on investment for the overarching companies won't see enough a reason to continue to support. So he's really thought it through with that idea. And then we have Necrons waking up. Or would Necrons be more appropriate for Space Marine 3? My take on that is I want to see like a huge expansion for this game. You know, I've mentioned to you guys how much I love big expansions. I'm talking about expansions that like have like 12, 15 hours of gameplay. They feel like their own game in their own right. If you have a good player base for the base game, an expansion only makes sense to continue building upon that. But yeah, the article does keep going here because it does get interesting. You got to remember, Saber Interactive, they have a lot cooking in the oven right now, even beyond Space Marine. So check it out right here. It goes on to say this, with Space Marine 2, it really does change everything, Wilt says. During our company party, I gave a little 30-second speech, and I told the whole team, this changes everything we do moving forward, from our small games, like our third-party publishing games, to A Quiet Place next month. We have Toxic Command coming up with Focus soon. Everything that we do now, this changes. And as employees, and I know this firsthand, when you have a big hit and you have that internet kind of popularity, there's more passion and there's more responsibility for the quality that you do. You look at yourself through a different lens. And sometimes that success lens can be a little bit dangerous, because then you get so paranoid about making sure everything is great that you over-stress about things. But it's that success lens that also really drives amazing games into the future. So I do believe that through the success lens that we have, we will just make far better products in the future. So this has been, I guess, quite the learning experience. So yeah, it's fascinating to note that Saber Interactive, this has been a pivotal moment for their company as a whole. And this is going to influence their upcoming games. I've said it again, I'm extremely curious about their Jurassic Park game big time. So yeah, we shall see what happens. And yes, I did mention earlier in the video that Henry Cavill played the game himself, so check it out right here. Nicholas Well of Focus Entertainment says, Henry Cavill loving Space Marine 2 is the cherry on the top of this incredible launch. So what did he have to say? He says this game is the must. Seriously though, they've done pretty well, I couldn't complete the campaign on Angel of Death by myself, or at least didn't have patience to complete it by myself, which I love. Loving the PvP, and I'm really looking forward to it growing and expanding. It has real potential to be absolutely awesome. Disclaimer, I know nothing about game development, so the kind of dreams I have may be rather difficult to implement. So he's enjoying the full package all the way from the campaign to the PvP. So that is excellent to hear. And yeah, we already know that PvP is also going to be getting support long-term as well. Now, mentioning PvE, we got to talk about that, because a lot of you guys were like, will we ever see further support for like 4-player co-op or even 5-player co-op? So this was asked out on X, so check it out right here. I just want to run through missions with 4 people like in World War Z. The response is from our creative director of Space Marine 2, who says, I know 4 is fun. It was a tough call deciding on max player party size. So it sounds like this right here is not going to be changing anytime soon, because the current infrastructure really does support the 3 players all the way around. So yeah, I wouldn't hold your breath on that one at all. I think it's going to remain 3 players right now. All right, so I think you guys know what time it is. It's time to go over your top comments. Remember, leave a comment down below. It could end up right here in a future video. So let's do this. All right, first comment is, why are people talking about Space Marine 3? Space Marine 2 just came out. Crying emoticon face. I couldn't agree more. I think that they're opening up the conversation, like I've said before, because they want your ideas now, not later, like when they're halfway through development and they're like, hey, it's too late to take your ideas now. Yeah, they want your ideas rolling in now so they can have like this huge whiteboard and start, you know, circling things that you guys are extremely interested in, putting it on the table for now, but just peeking at it while they are still continuing their support for Space Marine 2. Also, we have a pro tip, it seems. So check it out. Pro tip, learn to play without stims. With the amount of loot goblins who just take them with complete disregard for their team are seemingly infinite. So now I no longer need stims, just faith in God Emperor. I will die when and where he sees it. This is true. So that does beg the question, do you think the mechanics need to change in terms of healing? Do you think it should be a shared pool with the stims between players, or do you think you should be able to not have that fear of missing out on picking up a stim just because someone is being super greedy? You know what I mean? Sound off in the comments down below on that one as well. Now, we have this one right here. I've said this many times on other channels too. They need all emblems available for both Paladins. You can't make a proper Deathwatch armor when a huge majority of chapter emblems are only available for the left Paladin. We also need Inquisition-specific emblems. Running a Sniper Deathwatch doesn't allow to properly wear the current Deathwatch Paladin, since most of the cloaks weren't designed around them. I use a standard left Paladin on mine and color it bright silver to keep with the Deathwatch scheme, but some cloaks show partial exposure areas that need an emblem. I agree, this has been one of the more frustrating things because I like to put some of the left Paladins on the right shoulder, and you can't do that, and they look really badass. I really do like the idea of being able to see certain emblems on that right shoulder, you know what I mean? It only makes sense. All right, next up, we have this one right here. It says the game needs a chest thump salute emote with a hell brother when I join an operation. Hell yes. I want them to mention emotes. They haven't really said much. They did put, I believe, on the ideas focus website that this was wishlisted or something like that in that realm, and that they are looking into it. So at least they are aware of it, that you guys want more like emotes and that sort of thing. Next up, we have Chaplain and Apothecary class would be a great addition to the game that hopefully we get down the line at some stage. Now, Chaplain ability would be a litany that buffs nearby teammates' damage. Apothecary obviously heals and revives. I think we're going to need it. We have a new difficulty coming up here, and also Horde mode. So, my personal opinion is Apothecary is at the very top of their list when it comes to adding a new class. All right, so we got some more comments here. It says, I imagine Space Marine 3 will be inevitable, but the game, Space Marine 2, is really technically impressive already. If in a year's or a year and a half time they announced a major expansion DLC, which was a continuation of Titus's story in this game's engine, with a bunch of new accompanying operations with the new enemy factions, weapons, and cosmetics, I'd pre-order that shit so fast. I think all of us would. And couldn't they just upgrade the graphics engine as we go? I feel like there's potential for that as well. I don't believe this game has ray tracing, so they could just keep adding on to it, I would think, right? If they have designed the engine in a way where they can expand upon it. So I'm crossing my fingers that this engine is kind of future-proof. That would be very smart if they developed it that way, and they could just keep going with Space Marine 2 in its entirety in the long run. Hey, this comment actually has a lot of upvotes. I don't know why it's kind of like hidden away from me here. So it says performing executions needs to restore a percentage of health based on enemy size. Minoris 1%, Majoris 5%, Extremis 10%, Terminus 25%. This way you are encouraged to actually be aggressive towards enemies. Currently, sometimes the best thing to do is just run to a better position because there's too many. All right, so he clarifies some things here. Firstly, I'm looking at the game from a substantial ruthless difficulty perspective, which means vastly less equipment and stim packs spawn in the level. As a player goes through difficulties, they will need to rely on stims less and instead save them for healing mortal wounds instead of just a health boost. So I think giving the player a way to restore health by making the enemies provide what they need is important. In other words, push forward combat. Take what you need from the enemy so you rely on random chance drops less. Space Marine 2 should be hard because it is mechanically demanding, not because there's a lack of vital random drops in the level. Secondly, the reason the Extremis and Terminus enemies would provide more health is because they are vastly rarer and harder to kill enemies that show up only a handful of times in one mission. Terminus enemies only show up a maximum once because they provide armory data when killed. Plus, if a team is coordinating, they can let the lowest health ally perform the execution to get their health back, further rewarding team play. The mass majority of the enemies you will fight are Minoris and Majoris. 1% and 5% is not very much, but it all adds up. You need to execute 99 Minoris enemies, and 20 Majoris enemies to fully heal yourself without a stim. I say that's fair. 207 upvotes. A lot of you guys absolutely love this idea. So maybe this will make the dev team go, whoa, what is this right here? Maybe we should consider something like this. Now, there were some other ideas to just adopt what Doom Eternal did when killing enemies. You would have different flashing colors, and then you would either get an ammo drop or a health drop, and you would be far less reliant on those replenished supply areas. But it seems like the dev team had this idea of trying to get you to survive through sections, and then at the last moment, you have a relief as you get to those replenished supply drops. But maybe you guys don't like that, you know? Maybe you want to be able to have more replenishment during battle. So yeah, I don't know if they could tie this into a perk system, an additional perk system. They already have some interesting things going on with the perk system, but maybe they can like double down on that. It's going to be up to them ultimately, but yeah, we'll see what happens. I'll keep you guys updated on any, you know, updates in the future, but thank you all so much for watching. Thanks for looking on the up and up for Space Marine 2. I will definitely keep you guys in the know on this one, but thanks for watching, and I will see you all next time. Take care.